We used ChatGPT to roast our own video.
Boom, roasted.
And originally it was kind of just for laughs, but once I tried the process and reiterated a bit, I realized it's actually really useful for getting feedback. And I think it's something you should be trying on your own channel too. So I'm gonna show you the roast and actually show Nathan the roast as well because he hasn't heard it yet and I thought it'd be funny to tell him on camera. And then I'm gonna walk you through the process of how you can easily do this on your own channel and get some really practical feedback that you maybe haven't thought of. So here's the thing, ChatGPT cannot actually analyze a video, but it can analyze a transcript. So I took the URL from a video we published a few months ago and I put it into this generator free online thing where you can get the transcript out of the video. Then I put the transcript into ChatGPT and asked it to roast the video. It was confused at first, and because our video was a little bit critical of YouTube and YouTube's new thumbnail tool, it actually roasted YouTube, which was funny, but not what we were going for. So then I said, no, I think you misunderstood. Roast our delivery. So then I prompted it further and more specifically, and this is when it actually got really helpful. It stopped being snarky and sarcastic, but the criticism was really valid, and I think it can help anybody to make better videos. Let's bring Nathan in for these sick burns. All right, so we had 3 versions. The first one, it completely misunderstood the assignment, and it was roasting YouTube because I prompted it with our thumbnail video.
There are a lot of reasons to roast YouTube.
Yeah,
it was tester.
Pretty harsh. Right? So then I said, no, I think you misunderstood. We want you to roast us, how we delivered the video. So this is what we got. And then it's not super helpful, so I gave it some more specifics after, but I want you to hear this one. And we're going to give you the prompts too. If you join Insiders, we have not only the prompts I use, but also some advice on what to do with the information you get because you can't totally trust AI, as we know. But I refined the request a little bit and gave it some specifics on what to roast us on. And so this is what it came up with. And I actually think this one is a lot more helpful. Okay, so it says roller coaster ride of numbers. And it's not as snarky now, which is kind of boring, but that's more helpful.
Probably more helpful.
Yeah. Okay, roller coaster ride of numbers. The video jumps straight into percentage stats without any warm up, which feels like getting thrown into a cold pool. The rapid fire delivery of numbers and percentages is overwhelming. Viewers are left scrambling to keep up instead of being gradually introduced to the point you're trying to make.
I think fairly valid point.
Yeah.
However, I do say visuals save you a lot because just talking, obviously it can't roast what we can see on screen.
It can't watch the video.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do think visuals helped us there because we actually put up the numbers with the thumbnails. But very valid, especially if you're not doing a lot visually on your videos. Like that's a good reminder. It could be very overwhelming if you're just saying a bunch of stuff. No one's going to comprehend it, but adding a visual element could probably make a big difference.
Right. And I want to point out that when we were working on the outline, I was throwing a bunch of words in there and Nathan was like, we gotta simplify this. Like these people have not put in as much time as we have. They're probably not gonna understand this language we're using.
It was like deep statistical type language that I think the average person, it's probably a little too much.
And we want you to be able to enjoy the video, not have to focus a lot and look up half the words. So because I had that feedback from him, we kind of adjusted before we even recorded. Otherwise it would have been way worse. And it was something we had considered, but I think that's so helpful because a lot of you guys don't have somebody to bounce your ideas off of, especially like strategize for hours with, right? And so if I hadn't had that feedback from Nathan, this would have been so helpful if I had ran my original script through this. All right, and then it says Speed Racer narration. The pacing in the first half is like you're trying to beat a timer. The delivery is rushed, making it hard to process what's being said before you're already on to the next statistic or point. It's like trying to sip water from a fire hydrant. Slow it down and let the content breathe. I'm mixed on this one. It's an intro. It's an intro, but there's something to be said for letting it breathe. A little bit of dramatic pausing. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think there's a lot to be left up to the creator here. And so like we can go back and watch our video and see what we liked. But again, thinking back on it, I think sometimes we do end up rushing through spots really fast and then it maybe slows down a little bit later. But the intro is typically pretty rushed for retention's sake.
Yeah.
So it's like, you do definitely need to find the balance. But I would say, especially if you already recorded the video, do sort of a gut check. That's kind of what I would recommend there. Just like see if you actually think that it needs to change. But in this case, it's probably right. We probably could have taken it a little bit slower, especially since the topic was something that people were pretty interested in. They probably weren't going to click away in 2 seconds or 10 seconds. You know, we probably could have slowed it down a little bit and been a little bit more dramatic.
It's also a very new tool, so we're kind of assuming people were familiar with it. We had already done a news video about the tool, but anyone watching that wasn't familiar with the tool, it was probably like drinking from a fire hydrant. Okay, word choices and delivery. Repetitive rhetoric. You keep hammering the point that the tool doesn't work, which is great for emphasis, but it borders on overkill. It's like hearing a broken record, effective once, but redundant by the fifth spin. A bit more variety in phrasing could make the point hit harder without wearing out the message. I like that. It's very specific feedback. A bit more variety in phrasing. It's not telling us to just, not emphasize it at all. It seems to get the point of what we were trying to get across, but gives us some strategy on how to do it better. Techie talk. Terms like AA test, here's what we're talking about here. AA test, spread, and control group might go over some heads if they're not familiar with
those were the simple
lingo.
words.
I know.
We left in the simple words, but still, very, very good point.
Yeah.
Probably some definitions on screen or something could make a really big... I do like how, as I'm listening to some of the feedback, it's like, okay, well, what could we have done to fix that?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, a visual here, or a better explanation there, or slow down this little section. Like, it's actually some pretty just actionable feedback.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, and I'm so curious too to hear if any of you guys have watched this video that we are having roasted, our video about the AA thumbnail tester. I'm curious if you got the same impression, if you're like, yeah, guys, it was way too fast paced because we're so close to it. It's really hard for us to know. We had been dealing with this for 7 months and talking about it around the office for 7 months. We're too close to really be objective. So I'm curious what you think about this, or if you're like, no, I appreciated the pacing. Okay, bearing the lead. You mentioned why you shouldn't be using it early on, but then dance around the why for a good chunk of the video. It's a bit like setting up a punchline and then getting lost in the setup. Address the key points sooner to keep viewers engaged instead of teasing it out too long.
I mean, it did also say that we said it doesn't work 1,000 times. I'm pretty sure that's a good enough reason not to use the tool.
Yeah, that's
Still, to be honest.
Circular logic loop. The video gets a bit stuck in a loop, repeating how broken the tool is without advancing the narrative. We get it, it's broken, but instead of dwelling on that, more focus on alternative strategies or next steps would be refreshing. Right now, it feels like you're circling the drain. Yes? It feels like this is getting a little repetitive, ironically.
Yeah, ChatGPT.
We're going to roast you next. I don't know if we had a lot of instruction of what to do instead. We gave a little bit at the end, but we're mostly evaluating the tool. Unnecessary tangents. Fair. The nostalgic sidetrack to VidCon 2013, while interesting, feels like a detour from the main point. No, that was funny. It's like pulling over on a road trip to show everyone where you went to summer camp. It doesn't really add to the journey. Keep the focus tighter on the problem at hand. No.
Clearly never been to summer camp. It does add to the journey.
That's true. Summer camp's great. I would say it's more like pointing out a bridge on a road trip that they've been working on for 15 years and be like, oh, the sign said...
Oh, look, still have to take the detour.
Yeah, the sign said construction will be done in October of 2013, and it's still not done. That's kind of a funny detour, I think.
Yeah.
Although as far as tangents, we did go on a lot of tangents.
Yeah.
Okay, doom and gloom. The tone is a bit heavy on the negativity, with lots of it's broken and don't use it. While the frustration is understandable, throwing in some humor or lighthearted jab could balance things out. Right now, it's like listening to someone rant about a bad breakup, valid but draining after a while. I think that's
fair.
true. We were hurt,
Yeah.
and it showed.
Yeah, I think that's true. I also think that it worked. Even though, we probably could have been a little bit more lighthearted about it. Like, this was something that no one was talking about.
Yeah.
And I will say, there was some positive that came from it because we ended up getting the attention of some people at YouTube who ended up commenting on the video. And I could tell that what we said was, we jabbed at them a little bit. And they made a couple little jabs back. But in the end, we were able to sit down and talk with them and kind of talk through some of our concerns and let them know. And they expressed it actually helped with the development of the tool. So overall, I can see that.
And the relationship was still cool, amicable and...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we tried not to pinpoint any specific people or anything like that. It was just, generally speaking, it was more of a protection of the YouTube audience than it was trying to become, upset at the YouTube team, even though it maybe didn't come across that way.
A lack of excitement. The topic has potential to be a wow moment, but the delivery is more meh. Injecting some energy, especially when discussing how you felt during testing, would make it more engaging. It's like trying to hype up a party with smooth jazz. It needs a bit more punch. So ChatGPT, again, doesn't know our delivery. It can't watch the video, it just sees the script. Maybe it can figure out, based on the wording in the script, that we lacked energy. To us, it was a wow moment, and so that kind of breaks my heart that maybe it didn't come across as wow as it could have.
Which we have received that feedback in the comments over the past, year or so as we present on the channel, hey, energy should be up or this or that. So I think even if in this video we felt, actually the energy was okay, I think it's a good reminder because we have had concerns about that on this channel. It's just how come you guys look like you're sleeping? It's well, I don't know. Like, but no, it's a good reminder. I do think it's a good reminder.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that a lot of these go hand in hand. Like it was saying, let it breathe. You keep repeating yourself. So the energy might have felt more wow if we hadn't repeated ourselves so much, if we had found more nuanced ways of saying it's broken instead of just repeating that it's broken. So this as a whole, I think, is actually pretty helpful. Conclusion and payoff. The big reveal, just don't use it, feels like a deflated balloon. After all the build-up, it's a bit underwhelming. Offering some actionable alternatives or tips would leave viewers feeling like they got something out of it instead of just a warning to stay away. The Feature Nathan segment is a fun touch, but it's a little late to save the day. It's like someone showing up with dessert after the party's over. If the improvement hints were sprinkled earlier, it could add a bit more optimism to the video's tone. There's a reason that was chucked in the end, because we filmed it later, because we wanted to adjust the video.
Right.
Because we thought, maybe we're too harsh, but we want to
We made an attempt at the improvement, but we just didn't quite get there.
Yeah, so it's saying we were late with this little tidbit, which, for a final verdict, the video has great potential, but it's a high-speed train that's missed a few key stops. Slow down, tighten the narrative, and add some variety to the word choices and tone. If you can keep the viewer's attention without overwhelming or exhausting them, you'll have a much more compelling and enjoyable watch. And remember, if you're going to roast YouTube's tool, might as well make it fun for the audience too.
I think that's good feedback.
Yeah.
Overall, definitely way more helpful than the first version you did, first round of prompts. But I also think that, some of the feedback, I guess, I was like, oh, I thought we were doing good on that, or that kind of thing. And I think whenever you have those moments, it just feels like, okay, maybe we're trying, but that just means that it's not perfect. I would do this again.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're the one who did it, so you could do it again.
We'll do it again.
I would do this again. I feel like this could definitely help our videos. I'm curious to know what it would look like if we roasted before we filmed.
Right. And that's a little tricky because we put in the exact transcript of the video. So that's going to come with all the ums and ahs and everything you don't actually put in the original script unless you're doing a fully scripted video. However, I did run this video script or pre-outline through it and got some helpful things.
Right now, I've been seeing a lot of trends going on with young YouTubers, people who are kind of new to the platform. And I think this, tied with some of the things that I'm seeing, could be really, really cool to help people see what they need to be doing on their channel, what they need to be doing to improve so that they can get more views on their videos.
Right. Especially with multiple videos. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Because you do it with one, you can maybe make excuses. But if it's saying the same thing 5 times in a row, maybe you need to listen. So I think
love it.
I want to do it with more of our videos and continue to do it.
That's cool.
So thank you for being roasted. Hope it was painful.
It was.
If you want to do this on your own channel, there's a couple ways to go about it. So I have been analyzing a lot of our past videos based on the transcript from the finished video. But of course, that's a little different from the script before you film, because the transcript, unless it's completely scripted, is going to be a little bit more off the cuff. And so you're going to get different feedback. But for this video, I also put the script and outline into ChatGPT and asked it to roast it before we even started filming to get some more direction and just some feedback on some things I might want to tweak. And I actually did end up tweaking some of the outline for this video based on ChatGPT's feedback. So there's 2 ways you can do it, and I would suggest you actually analyze a lot of your old videos, because the more videos you analyze, the more you can see if there are patterns. And if there are patterns, it's likely valid. I will link to a free tool you can use to turn your YouTube video URL into a transcript so you have something to copy and paste into ChatGPT. Or you can put your script into ChatGPT before you start filming. It will be a lot more useful if you give it some specifics on what you're looking for feedback on. And if you want ideas, join Insiders, because we have a list for you in there, along with some more detailed strategy on how to really analyze this and take some things with a grain of salt and which things to actually put weight to, based on how AI works. For example, remember that you're asking AI for a roast, and if you give it specifics, it will roast you on that thing. So if you say, hey, on this video, I want you to roast my pacing and maybe my topic and my structure, well, you asked it to roast your pacing. So it will either say that you were too fast or too slow. Now, if on all of your videos it says your pacing seems too slow, then you probably know you need to speed it up a bit. But if you then speed it up and speed it up and speed it up, eventually it will say, hey, your pacing's too fast. But that's really frustrating, right? Because you told it, right, to roast you on this aspect. So it's going to say you were incorrect in one direction or the other. So at some point, you don't want to put too much weight to it. But here's the main takeaway I want to leave you with. If a roast resonates, it's likely something worth focusing on. If you have that moment where you're like, oh yeah, I do that, don't I? Or yeah, I kind of was worried about that happening in this video, and I guess it did. then that's something that you know you have to work on. And that's fine. This is useful. There's something with learning where it's actually the more painful that the learning process is proven, the more effective it is for you to actually improve. Because if the learning process isn't painful, you're not making mistakes and you think you're doing everything right. But if the learning process is painful, you're getting valuable feedback on how to adjust. So the trick is just not get discouraged and take the feedback that's helpful. Don't take it too personally. Just use it as a tool to improve. And if it says something that you really disagree with, it's fine to ignore it. The link for you to join Insiders will be in the description. And if you're brave enough, post your roast in the comments so that we can all see it and laugh at it and hopefully learn from each other. If you try this, you're brave and I admire you. Thanks for watching.